Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. So happy to welcome Dr. Joan Finnefrock and Susan Bussard. They are from Quota International of Massillon. And I think for starters, some people might not be familiar with Quota International. So tell me, what is this organization? What do you do?
Quota International is an international organization. We are one of, how many clubs do we have altogether? There's clubs in 14 countries throughout the world. Our district has 11 clubs in the state of Ohio. And Massillon Club, we're pretty proud to announce that we have the largest membership. We have 70 members.
Wow.
And quota means to share. And so we have a couple of different service missions. We focus primarily on service to people with speech and hearing problems and also empowering women and children who are disadvantaged.
Okay, so both.
Yes.
I was not familiar with the second half of that. I always think of quota as being with people who have hearing impairment or some kind of speech impairment. So also women and children. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Disadvantaged women and children is one of Quota's primary areas of focus, along with the speech and hearing. And in our club, we do just a number of different projects that provide services to women and children. One of them is we partner with Pathway Caring for Children, which is a foster program, and we put together backpacks that children can take with them when they're going into a foster placement that have blankets, a lot of personal items, things like that. So we've done a number of backpacks for those children. We also partner with the Salvation Army for different programs, their back-to-school program. We help backpack the backpacks for the back-to-school program, and we do hearing screenings for the kids in that program. We also have a program that we call, that's more of a personal type of thing, Adopt a Family. So not just at Christmas time, but on the 25th of every month throughout the year, we have a family that we provide gift cards a lot of times, or things that they need to just kind of let them know that somebody's thinking of them throughout the year.
Idea, and I thought I knew everything about quota.
Yes.
That is amazing. Well, you learn something new every day, don't you?
Yes, you do.
The other thing that comes to mind is so often we pigeonhole everybody. Well, I tend to. So the thought that there would be a child in the foster care system who might also have need for services from quota as far as hearing or speech.
Yes.
That never dawned on me.
And that works with our adopt-a family. Sometimes our families that we look for are families that, are just having some financial difficulties. But we've had a couple of years where somebody in that family also had a hearing loss. So even though we're two separate areas of service, we do overlap at times, right?
Well, and a lot of folks would never even dream the cost involved when you've got hearing aids or some other kind of equipment that you need for a family, just for a child to get through a regular day.
True. And hearing aids aren't necessarily provided by their insurance.
That's amazing.
And most consider them cosmetic, which is totally hard to believe.
It's honestly crazy when you think about it.
It is. It's just, it's so frustrating.
Very devastating.
Yes.
So we have a long history in our Massillon Club of providing service to children with hearing loss. We started 2004. Ohio's legislation for newborn hearing screening was passed, and members of our club were instrumental in that. We drove to Columbus multiple times and met with legislators, and Kirk Schuring really was, instrumental in pushing that through for us.
There were 5 from our club involved in it. Yeah. And at first, we started with Johnny Meyer.
Right.
And he said, this is going to take you ladies 3 years. And we looked at each other and said, oh, no, you don't know us. It's not going to take 3 years. And then Senator Schuring came along, and he took it up. And it took us 3 years of testifying and going to Columbus. We took audiometers down, and we tried to convince the representatives and the senators and anyone on the committee.
And we didn't give up. The 3 years was, it'll take 3 years, but this is important enough. So once children were identified with hearing loss at birth, then the issue became, you have a newborn baby, but you're not planning on $3,000 and $4,000 for a pair of hearing aids.
Correct.
And you have to get them on right away. Within 2 to 3 months is ideal. And so parents are still, just kind of reeling from the fact that their child might have a hearing loss, don't know anything about it. So we started a program called Sound Beginnings, where we provided the first pair of hearing aids for all children in our area. We pretty much covered Stark County, and that was grant funded. So some of the restrictions were based on the foundations that gave us the grant. Then it got to the point where we were finding that more and more children, not just in Stark County, needed help with these hearing aids. So we met with Representative Schuring at that time and talked about, can insurance cover the cost of hearing aids? And that probably wasn't something that was going to be really easy to pass. So we worked with him to create a program called Ohio Hearing Aid Assistance Program, where it's through the Ohio Department of Health. And so funding was put into Ohio's budget so that children birth through age 18 could be provided with hearing aids if they were not eligible for Medicaid, or if they were not. There was like a financial restriction, but it was a very lenient one.
So for families where their insurance does not cover hearing aids, there is another way to get them out, thanks to your efforts.
Yes, thanks to our efforts. So we kind of did away with Sound Beginnings because this was, and they had to meet financial criteria.
Yes.
Talk to me about infant screening. This is new. How can you tell if an infant is hearing you or not?
Well, there is technology that it's actually a very easy thing to do, but a lot of people think of a hearing test where you put the headphones on and you raise your hand when it beeps, and that doesn't work for newborns.
No.
So there are two different types of technology. The most common one is called ABR, or Automated Brainstem Response Audiometry, where little electrodes are placed on the baby's head, and it sounds kind of scary, but nothing electronic is going in. It's kind of like an EEG or an EKG.
Okay.
And then little earbuds are put into the infant's ear with different sounds, different frequencies, from low frequencies to high frequencies. And so we can then measure the brain stem's response to sound.
This is way more advanced than clapping and seeing if they blink.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, because most children that have a hearing loss are not deaf. So we tend to think that you're either deaf or you're hearing. And only about 5% of children with hearing loss are totally deaf. So most of them have some hearing. So you could clap and they could turn around because they might hear that frequency of sound, or they feel the movement, or see a shadow.
Or a breeze.
Or anything like that. So this is a much more accurate representation of what that child is actually hearing.
Earlier you said it was important to get hearing aids on them as early as possible.
Definitely.
Why is that?
Children learn to speak by what they hear. So before we did newborn screening, a lot of times we weren't identifying hearing loss until these children didn't speak. And the brain is programmed to process and to develop language between birth and about 3 to 4 years old. So if they don't have sound coming in, then it's going to affect their ability to speak. And so it's really critical. The goal is to have identification by 1 month, amplification by 3 months. We call it the 136 program, and then intervention by 6 months.
And what all does that mean?
So making sure that if they don't pass the screening, they do a follow-up evaluation by 1 month of age and find out, yes, they do have a hearing loss, or no, they don't have a hearing loss. And if they do, get amplification on them by 3 months of age. And then intervention involves speech therapy, auditory training, those types of things, working with parents at that age. A lot of it is working with parents on how to keep hearing aids on.
Yes.
But there's so much research out there now that shows that kids who meet that 136 criteria, by the time they're school age, kindergarten, they are pretty much on par with their hearing peers as far as language development, speech development, academic development.
Which is really
amazing.
phenomenal.
Oh,
I
my
worked with a lot of children in the elementary school who were hearing impaired. I could never get them caught up. I could never teach them the different verb tenses. They just didn't get present tense, past tense. Just if they got this concept, they were so thrilled that they understood something about it. And I just felt I could never get them caught up. But now we have a lot of people telling us that they're about caught up. A lot of them in kindergarten.
Yes.
And when you think that back in the day, kindergarten is when would have been the first time they were screened.
Exactly. So they missed so much time.
Yes.
Yeah. It used to be, and I've been an audiologist for 31 years. So it used to be, and when I graduated from school and even started working in the schools, it was just common knowledge that if a child had a hearing loss, our expectations were that he would read about it at a 4th grade level when they graduated from high school. And now we're seeing these kids who have been screened early who are doctors and lawyers and
Sure.
things like
They're
that. I mean, they can do
soaring.
anything that they want to do.
Absolutely.
Right.
I've got a friend who's a high school principal who they did not detect his hearing loss until 6th grade.
Yeah.
Just didn't know why he wasn't doing well in
Right.
school. Is
Yeah.
that amazing?
I know.
It is.
Well, we're talking 40 years ago.
Right.
So it is amazing now, though, but he had such a heart for kids struggling, so
yes.
went into education.
Yeah, awesome, yeah.
And now is,
Understood
an
that.
administrator. Okay, we know, Susan, 31 years for you. Joan, how many years for you doing this?
Well, I'm still doing it. I retired from Massillon City Schools after 30 years.
Wow.
And I've taught at Akron for 19.
Ever since.
And, no, even while I was working,
Oh,
and
my.
I'm still working. So
yeah.
it's just a great field.
Yes.
So enjoyable.
Yes. You said a word that was oh so familiar to me, but won't be for everyone. You mentioned the audiometer. You said, okay, we
yes.
take audiometers into the school. Help us know what that is.
Well, the audiometer is a piece of equipment that you put earphones on the child's ears, and you change the sound, the frequency, and how loud they can hear. And you screen them, and the kids can indicate by either raising their hand or dropping a toy in the bucket to let you know basically that they're hearing certain tones at a certain level of loudness. But if they need something more sophisticated, they should go to a place that has a soundproof booth and work with an audiologist.
Sure.
We do the screening and then refer out.
And then be able to do some intervention if some intervention is necessary.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I think we don't think about the fact that we would say things the way we hear them. So if we hear them differently, we're going to say them differently. But it is possible to help. What's normal? Lots of children don't say their R's early on.
Right.
Lots of children have a lisp early on. Lateral lisps,
Right.
know the
I do know the terms. I've had
know the
some of
terms.
these
Yeah.
myself personally.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
so how do you sit down with a child and help them say things so that people understand them?
Well, if the speech and language concerns are due to a hearing loss, first of all, we need to make sure that they have access to those sounds. So Joan had talked about trying to catch kids up and they didn't understand, or you can never get them to understand past tense or plurals and
That's
things like
so
that.
interesting.
And but the high frequency sounds that most kids with hearing loss have difficulty hearing are sounds like s, t, d. And when we think about plurals is a s at the end of the word.
Sure.
So they may not hear the difference between book and books.
Right.
They don't hear that tiny little s, or walk and walked with that little sound at the end. So if the child has a hearing loss, the most important thing is making sure they have access to that sound through appropriate amplification. If they don't have a hearing loss and still have some issues with speech and language, then there are other ways to work with them. And Joan can probably give you more information on that.
Oh, sure. And maybe we could talk about what we're doing in the summer.
Let's just move right into that right
Good
now.
idea.
We've
Yeah.
got
That's what
we've
we're
got a
doing.
clinic coming up. So talk to me about what's happening.
Okay. Quote of Massillon last year we started a summer speech clinic. We felt there was really a need in the community. One of our sister Quota clubs, Quota of Salem, has been doing Saturday clinic for years and years. So a group of us went to Salem to see how they did it, where they worked, what materials they used, everything that was involved with their clinic. So we came back, and we were originally going to pattern ours as a Saturday clinic, but then there was the issue, where do you have it? Who's going to open up? Who's going to close? When maybe a church wasn't involved there on Saturday. So we went to Massillon City Schools and talked to Ryan Spicer, the Special Services Director. And he allowed us to offer our clinic. It's a Friday clinic. Every Friday from 9 to 12 at Massillon City Schools. And it's worked so well.
All through the summer.
So well. I communicated with the clinic director at the University of Akron, and we have 4 graduate students, graduate clinicians coming down to do speech therapy for their clinical hours. And they come and see 4 clients for students
Wonderful.
back to back. And we had a total of 16 spots available for our clinic, and they're all filled. We
Oh, my
started
goodness.
last week
Okay.
and filled the 16th spot last week.
So we're not even here
So-
trying to open
Oh,
up,
no.
find a place for somebody.
Nope.
No,
There
we would
is
love
no
to, but we have we're
Yeah.
full right now.
There's
Yeah.
no room.
Yeah.
And then Susan handles the registration, and she can tell you what school districts are taking advantage of the summer clinic this
Perfect.
year.
All right, let's get to that. We need to take a short little break, but we're going to be back with Joan and Susan right after these words. You're listening to Our Community.